So one of the things that is often not fully invested in the role of the dean of students is really establishing a strong partnership with parents and families. And yeah, you might say, what do you mean by that? Because I mean, as a dean, you're always communicating with parents when children do whatever they're doing or whatever the case may be. You have parent meetings, so you are, so you're working with parents. But listen to what I said. I didn't say, calling parents when things happen. I didn't say working with parents when you're dealing with problems and issues. What I said was building strong partnerships. In chapter 22 of From Classroom to Dean of Students, I dive into building strong partnerships. Why is this important? The bridges that you build, the understanding of how things work within your school, those friendly relationships, you knowing parents, parents knowing you as dean, is very important. Think about it this way: the one person in school that parents almost always know, they should know, is the principal, right? And I would say maybe the assistant principal, then followed by the teachers that their children are sitting in their classrooms, right? But the principal is always the person that everybody knows. That's the principal, is the head of the school. But the dean is almost the person where it's like when things are not going well, then you get to know the dean. And often it's based on a bad experience. Whether your child got into trouble or your child was a victim of something that happened to them, it's never, hey, I met the dean just because, it was a school event, or I met the dean because the dean did a workshop around, something that could benefit my child and their academic future. You're literally, for lack of better terms, you're the cop. You're the policing arm of the school, and we know typically that when it comes to dealing with the police, it's usually because something bad happened. It's rarely in a situation where it's just kind of like community policing, or just not even community. I hate to say community policing. It's never just because this is a member of our community. Like the guy who runs the corner store, or the barber shop. Your role is never because you're part of the community, it's because you're there because of something that happened in the community, which is typically negative. So this is important. This is important that you really find a way to start to build those relationships. And I'll give you a couple of tips of how you do that. The beginning of every school year, there should be a message from the dean, an introduction. Hey, I'm the dean of students. This is what I do. And it shouldn't be all housed around, if there's a disciplinary issue. Then the next thing is you should be running workshops. And workshops could be everything from, it doesn't, I mean, you might not be, most of the time, dean, even though the dean has been a teacher, their role is not really to address academic issues. But I would lean on that. Like, I was a special ed teacher. I taught technology, I taught film, I taught all these, I did love being in the classroom. So often I would do things like have like a movie night, and bring parents in there, and we will watch a film and talk about a film. I shared the things that I was interested in. So I wasn't just the dean. I was, Mr. Njoku, who, the parents were like, yeah, I like talking to you. I learned something new from you. And it's not always about something having to do with behavior or uniform or attendance, and that relationship that you establish, or that comfortability, makes it easier if there is something that happens that requires that now you have to have those unpleasant conversations. is not happening from a very from a transactional space where it's like, well, thank you for coming to the school. My name is Mr. Njoku, I'm the dean, and this is what happened. No, it's like, I used to love when parents would come into the school because something did happen. I mean, I didn't like the fact that something happened that required them to come to school that was negative. But I loved when they would walk in and be like, hey, Mr. Njoku, good morning, how are you doing? I'm doing well, how's blah, 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 blah. So what happened? You know, and it felt like adult friends who were talking about something very, very important, which is the child of that parent, you know. So whether the parent, the child was the protagonist or the antagonist in the story of what was happening, the parents were always there as partners to make sure that we could address the issue. And guess what too? When you create spaces where you get to know parents, and you also create spaces where parents get to know parents as well, guess what happens? You're sitting there because two kids got into a fight. You have to call the parents in for the, you know. Then the parents arrive, and guess what happens? They're in the lobby or in the main office, and they're talking to each other. They're laughing. And or they come to a meeting with me, and they're like, listen, Mr. Njoku, we talked about this last night. You know, we called each other, and we can't believe what our kids were doing. You know, and we put them on the phone, and they spoke to each other, and they apologized. So I know there are things that need to happen, but, you know, what can you do to make sure they don't miss too much? Like, I'm like, whoa. Because guess what? The dean of students' responsibility is to create community and culture and a space that's inclusive of everyone, you know. And often what happens is parents are brought in the last minute when something happens versus them being part of the community from the beginning. This is our school, their child's school. They should be part of the conversation at every level. The most successful schools that I've ever worked at or visited or read of or have seen had parents at the core of the culture of that school. You know, so think about that. Don't just bring parents in, you know, when things happen. Bring parents in so they're always part of what happens, you know. So yeah, I just want to share that real quick. Again, if you're interested, there's a link in the description from the class. I also have to look at this because my brain, my dyslexia always kicks in. So from classroom to dean of students, it's just keys for a successful transition. Those of you who are thinking about going to the position or in the position, you're new to it, or you've been in it for a while and things are stale, or you're trying to figure out how to better enhance what you do. You know, this is a tool, a guidebook, a reminder of the things that you should be doing to really enhance the culture of your school as the dean of students. And with that being said, talk to you guys soon. All right, be well.